Welcome and thank you for coming. If you look around, what you see today is the result of a unified effort by Extinction Rebellion here in Chicago. And it's our historic coalition of over 30 coalition partner organizations that are here to fight for the same reason, and that's to pressure our governments to avert catastrophic climate change. Our partners here today are diverse. They come from environmental justice, faith, labor, health, environmental, and climate change groups. We're working together now. We have one purpose. We're demanding that our governments take immediate action on climate change. So please wander around the plaza today and experience our regenerative culture fair. It's for all ages to join, and you can act now on the climate crisis in many different beautiful and creative ways. And stay tuned for the youth die-in and more coalition action after that. And after the press conference, please stay for Climate Reality Truth in 10. In 10 minutes, you'll understand why climate change is urgent. And now I'm going to introduce one of our youth speakers.
Will you say your name, please?
My name is Joe Phillips with Extinction Rebellion Chicago. PHILLIPS.
My name is Serena Worley. I'm a sophomore at Deerfield High School and the Director of Outreach for the Illinois branch of the U.S. Youth Climate Strikes. Since last February, I've been working to save my future and the futures of everyone else who has to live on this planet that other generations have so horribly destroyed. Every time I talk about this to an adult, I hear the same phrase over and over again. All right. Every time I talk to an adult about this, I hear the same phrase over and over again. Your generation is going to fix all this. You guys are the future. Excuse me? You're still here. You're still in power. You can act. This movement wouldn't exist if the adults in power did their jobs and protect the people they were elected to represent. Legally, I can't hold office. I can't even vote in the next presidential election. We are begging you, the people in power, the people who have the power, to act. Right now, this is all we, the youth, can do. All we can do is ask you, the people who have this vote, who have this right, who have this ability to make change. We want you to act. Today, we will be holding a die-in to get the city of Chicago to declare a climate emergency. The climate crisis is an emergency. In the Midwest this year, we saw extremely abnormal flooding that ruined the growing season for many farmers. This is having devastating economic impacts on us. My own high school had people missing school because the streets around us were too flooded for the buses to get through. Over the next few decades, this will in all likelihood only become more common and more extreme, threatening the lives, livelihoods, and our nation's food supply. Chicago, even though we are in the middle of the continent, will not be spared by this crisis. Our country, our state, our city, our planet, our home needs to be saved from these reckless actions. Thank you.
Hello, I am Avery Martin, a junior at Deerfield High School and the head of the school outreach committee for the Illinois Youth Climate Strike. In previous years, school has meant everything to me. I worked extremely hard in the most challenging classes I could push myself to take. That was the type of person I was. I worked that hard because, to my understanding, school was the ticket to a brighter future. Ever since I became involved in the fight against climate change, school has become fruitless. It has become almost trivial and worthless, because I now understand that that ticket I was expecting to be provided is only on track to a depressing world filled with greed, not the bright future I was hoping for. That ticket is That ticket is leading to a world filled with innocent people who have had their homes taken away from them. A world filled with greenhouse gases, pollution, and the continuity of a mass extinction that has only worsened over time. A world where more and more people are becoming fearful of the planet they live on. And I do not believe that that is a future worth living in. And that is why we are fighting, to change the tracks the world is on, the direction we are heading toward, to declare a climate emergency. So the youth are marching here today with our hands up to show our innocence and our vulnerability. We do not want to be fighting against adults, politicians, and the government. We want to be working with them. Climate change is a problem, and we should be fighting that problem together, not wasting time by arguing over the details of scientific fact, but deciding on the next course of action. So please read the messages we write on our hands today during our march. Really take them into consideration when making future decisions. Listen to us, and please recognize our lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Puharich, and I'm just a kid. Well, funny. Actually, I see myself as more of an adult, and want to know why? Why is because I've wasted my entire childhood. I should be with my friends, or practicing my sport, or studying for my 3 tests this week. But instead, I'm here trying to fix your mistakes. The world is literally on fire, yet you say it's so complicated. What is so hard to understand? I'm a high school freshman that just turned 14, but it seems pretty simple to me. Of course it'll cost money, but what doesn't? The longer we wait, we'll realize that money will no longer do anything. I'm tired of waiting for us to do something. We have to do something. Funny, we? Because it seems like that's not making a difference. I come to these marches, I spread the word, but you still won't listen. I can't hold office, I can't vote. It's almost impossible for me to even have a say. I have been working hard every day at school to hopefully be able to get a good job and go to college and make a difference. But I can no longer wait to do that. I can't wait 8+ years to graduate and then make a difference. I'm not scared, I'm petrified. Today we are marching so that Chicago will declare a climate emergency. I'm begging you, Chicago, give me my childhood back.
I would like to send a message to Governor Pritzker. Governor Pritzker, you need to start treating climate change as it is, as an emergency. This is not just something that you can wait on. Illinois needs to be a leader in the effort to fight against climate change. You have the support. You can do it. 70% of Illinoisans support CEJA, so why not pass it? Illinois cannot wait for other states to do it first or for the U.S. government to do it first. Illinois can be an innovator, can lead the effort to fight climate change, and it should. You have the votes. You can do it, Governor Pritzker. My name is Aiden Lane. Aidanlane.
Yeah, Aiden Lane!
Okay. My name is Marissa Velez. That's Marisa, and last name Velaz. You good? Okay. I am here with Sunrise Movement Chicago. We are a growing community of young people making climate change an urgent priority across the United States. Since the beginning of the movement in 2017, Sunrise has worked diligently towards a livable future and 1 million jobs, transitioning how we live, such as through regenerative agriculture. Sunrise understands it will not be an overnight process, but all of us are here today because we can no longer wait until tomorrow. For me, this is personal. I am from Guatemala, but raised in the south side of Chicago. It wasn't until a few years ago that I realized the privilege I grew up in by visiting Guatemala. There are decisions people make each day, both in the cities and the highlands, that none of us will be able to grasp without having lived it. In the past 6 years, these decisions have become a matter of life or death, as droughts have led to crop failure affecting 1 in 10 Guatemalans. Deforestation has increased landslides, floods, and erosion of farmlands. Villages and towns which have held generations of beautiful history and culture are having to be left behind if they wish to be even remotely safe. A Green New Deal framework would disempower fossil fuel interests and improve people's lives from Chicago to Guatemala. I stand here today because I am lucky enough to. While the Midwest sits on swamplands that have begun to see the effects of droughts and flooding, most of us will be able to go home to our apartments and beds and sleep comfortably. This cannot be said for the 167,000 Guatemalans that have been apprehended at the U.S. border. And for what reason? Because we're scared? People are dying in Guatemala and all throughout the world. These deaths link directly to the negligence of fossil fuel executives and politicians whose silence on the matter has been bought and paid for. I stand here today because I refuse to be quiet. I refuse to go one more second and say I didn't try and put up a fight. For my motherland and for everyone who deserves a better chance to live in this world, this is the day we declare a climate emergency, and the city council needs to follow suit because we are a sanctuary city. Immigration justice is climate justice. We need to welcome these migrants with open arms and work to make this world a better place for everyone to live in. The time to act is now. Thank you.
My name is Tonisha Harris. I am speaking on behalf of the Alliance for Climate Education about the worst existential crisis to face humanity, the climate crisis. I don't think people understand how hard it is to make a scientist, and my generation no less, have an existential crisis. If you sat in class 5 days a week for 4 years learning about a changing climate because of us, the mass extinction and loss of biodiversity because of us, the communities living in pollution, my community breathing polluted air because of us, and the unwillingness to enact viable and sustainable solutions we've known about for decades because of you too would have an existential crisis. We are here today because young people don't have the luxury of living to old age. I live with my life with a counter above my head, 11 years. 11 years is all humanity has left to address climate change before it becomes irreversible. I am past patiently waiting for solutions, for climate action. It is incomprehensible the lackadaisical attitude being taken towards addressing the climate crisis. I fear that communities like mine, brown people living on the south side of Chicago, living below the poverty line, will suffer even more so than now while politicians drag their feet prioritizing profit over people. The climate resilience infrastructure needed to withstand an increasingly inhabitable climate until legislation passes does not exist in communities that are systemically ignored, excluded, and forgotten. Illinois has an opportunity to become a leader right now and prove to the rest of the country what a just and sustainable transition to 100% renewable energy future looks like. Illinois can demonstrate with its actions that a holistic and comprehensive approach to climate change is not only achievable, but prioritizes communities that have been historically left behind. I'm asking for Governor Pritzker to pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act to remove that countdown clock above our heads and give my generation a future.
Hi, my name is Erica and I'm with Extinction Rebellion Chicago. My name is Erica and I'm with Extinction Rebellion Chicago. Today our Extinction Rebellion chapters are taking action on the streets of Toronto, New York, London, Amsterdam, Melbourne, Sydney, Auckland, and on every continent. To demand that governments tell the truth and declare a climate emergency. The 30-plus groups in our coalition today have struggled for years to bring attention to climate change, but government officials do nothing. They do nothing, despite a 2018 UN report warning we had 12 years to utterly change energy systems before confronting social and ecological collapse. They do nothing, despite another UN report in May warning that inaction will bring about the 6th mass extinction of all life on Earth. They do nothing. When global emissions rise higher as we speak, threatening to seal our fates, they do nothing. It is immoral to portray this problem as a problem for our youth. It's everybody's problem. Our coalition consists of young and old, professionals and parents, the vulnerable, and those who confront daily the devastating effects climate change has already wrought. We all say no more business as usual. We demand, thank you. We demand our governments tell the truth and declare a climate emergency. We demand that governments enact legally binding policies to reduce carbon emissions to net zero by 2025. We demand that government rely on citizens' councils to oversee the changes. We do not trust the government to make changes drastic enough to save life on Earth. Last, we demand a just transition that prioritizes our vulnerable and the indigenous and establishes reparations. And anyone who agrees to these demands and our 10 principles may act under the Extinction Rebellion banner. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa Bryce, and I am here with 350 Chicago. 350.org is a grassroots global movement to solve the climate crisis. We recognize that the amount of carbon in our atmosphere has far exceeded the safe level of 350 parts per million. Climate scientists agree that if we want to keep our atmosphere in the balance that we've had it for the last 10,000 years, then we need to keep the parts per million of carbon below 350. We have reached 415 parts per million. The climate crisis is accelerating much more rapidly than previously predicted, and scientists tell us that we are in the midst of a 6th mass extinction. This has spurred us to demand urgent action. Along with Extinction Rebellion, we call on the City of Chicago to declare a climate emergency and transition to zero emissions as quickly as possible. Here, us at 350 Chicago are working to get the City of Chicago to divest its investments of the top 200 oil, coal, and natural gas companies that have the most amount of carbon in their reserves that they plan to burn. If they burn all of those reserves, we will reach 6 degrees of global warming, and the climate accords agree we must stay below 2 degrees of global warming and probably even 1.5 degrees. To keep the warming below this catastrophic level, our city must act as a leader and transform our economy through investments in community-led renewable energy. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, let me do it again. Hey. All right, my name is Kyra Woods, and I'm here with Sierra Club, the Illinois chapter. And I say thank you to all of you for showing up today. Thank you to XR Chicago for inviting us here, and for everybody tuning in and standing up across the world. We thank you for what you stand for, and we are here in solidarity with you all. For over 125 years, Sierra Club has advanced the mission to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. And we believe that that is something that all people should have access to. But let's be very clear. The crisis that we are in the midst of is not just about the planet. This is about the planet and people. And communities across Chicago, across Illinois, and across the world are saying today it is worth declaring a climate emergency because we will no longer stand to be your political pawns. We are demanding action from our politicians because that time was yesterday, and for all the generations who have fought and asked for this action before, today it's too late. And so we are asking for strong climate action now, to declare a climate emergency because that is what it is, and to enact binding policy that will put our state on the path to a brighter future and protect the communities of our city and of our state and of our world. So, absolutely. So I invite you to look around, because what you see in Daly Plaza right now is rather beautiful. We have children running around and painting and coloring and meditating as young as 5, and we have the warriors who have led this fight for years and decades before us standing together to say this is what we fight for. Those children are what we fight for. And so I raised the message that Tonisha and Aiden both raised, that we are calling on Governor Pritzker to pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act in Springfield. In just a few weeks, veto session will be here. And we are not going to be the political pawns anymore. There is action, the science is clear. We are asking you to pave a way forward. So, what do we want? Climate action. Let me hear you. What do we want?
Climate action!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate action!
When do we want it?
Now!
Now. So one final thing before leaving. What is fantastic about what we're seeing from XR here in the US is definitely the prioritizing of our racial equity, as well as the social and ecological equity that needs to be centered in this conversation. This is, again, it's not just about the planet, but the people and the processes by which we create a better future for ourselves. So not only do we want strong climate action, because that science was in decades ago, right? That was really clear before. What we want is climate justice. What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
And so for all of you who are here, who are composting, recycling, pursuing clean energy avenues, I say thank you. But for our politicians who are listening, let's be clear, one final thing. We are not going to solar power our way out of this. We are not going to recycle our way out of this. We need you to have strong action locally, at the state level, and federally. And while we can't wait for this federal administration to do something, we are calling on Mayor Lightfoot to seek action here locally and declare the emergency, but we are also asking for action in Springfield. And so what do we want?
Climate justice!
And when do we want it?
Now!
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Shusgreen. I'm with Soil. Save our Illinois land. All right. We are pipeline fighters. We are trying to stop any new fossil fuel infrastructure or any new fossil fuel expansion. And today, I'm here to tell you about the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Talk about it.
As you remember, the Dakota Access Pipeline was built all the way from North Dakota to where it ends in southern Illinois, but it was built over the heroic protests of the Standing Rock Sioux. People came from all over the globe to stand with the Sioux because of the righteousness of their cause. But we lost anyway. And that pipeline went in. And since it went in, it has already leaked 10 or 11 times. The whole world learned from that pipelines do leak, and that all those who assure us that the pipeline is safe are lying to us. Now, in Illinois, the Dakota Access Pipeline Company and their corporate partners have asked permission from the Illinois Commerce Commission for the right to build 3 new pumping stations in Illinois, which would allow them to double the volume of oil that they're sending through Illinois. We say no. And we are asking you to help us say no. The decision will be made by the Illinois Commerce Commission, and we're concerned about that. We don't know the new commissioners, but these unelected bodies, for the most part, think in terms of business as usual. They see their responsibility as facilitating commerce, a perfect example of business as usual and how devastating it could be. We say no because if this oil is doubled, it will exacerbate the climate crisis. It will open up Illinois farmers and some very delicate environmental areas in southern Illinois to the possibility of leaks and spills, and it will be for profit. Please help us by asking Governor Pritzker to speak out and say no. Governor Pritzker needs to take a stand. I've got petitions. Please sign my petition. Thank you.
My name is Robin Lovett Owen, and I am a seminarian at the Lutheran School of Theology and a candidate for ordination in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We are in the beginning of a crisis, an ecological crisis, the breakdown of our climate and ecosystems, a breakdown of the earth which all of us call home. This is an emergency, and it's time we started acting like it. Entire ecosystems are dying, and the human suffering and death that will come as a result will be grave. Business as usual has failed us. We have tried to enact responsible change through the usual measures, through petitions, voting, and talking politely to our elected officials, and nothing has changed. The sinful destruction of our planet continues. At this point, continuing business as usual in the face of such grave consequences is immoral. It would mean abandoning those that Jesus calls the least of these to the worst consequences of the climate crisis. It would mean death. It is unacceptable, and we are angry. The time to act is now, and we are done asking for change politely. We are taking to the streets with nonviolent action to demand that Governor Pritzker declare a climate emergency and that he take immediate, life-saving action today. Governor Pritzker, do the right thing. Tell the truth about the climate crisis. Take action now. Declare a climate emergency now. To do anything less, Governor Pritzker, is a moral failure. Thank you. And Jovi from Greenpeace, if you are here, you are next.
So we don't have Jovi. I'd like to introduce Lucia Whalen and Jennifer Linton with The Truth in 10. Their synopsis of the science and the effects behind climate change. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Oh, let's hope we don't. Thank you so much. My name is Jennifer Linton, and I'm here from the Chicago chapter of the Climate Reality Project. I'm a graphic designer and a mother from Northbrook turned activist.
My name is Lucia Whalen, and I'm a writer and a volunteer at the Climate Reality Project. The Climate Reality Project is a nonprofit started by Al Gore in 2006 with a mission to catalyze a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across every level of society.
We're going to give a version of our Truth in 10 talk today, an educational presentation that we offer as part of Climate Reality's dedicated effort to reach the masses about the climate crisis. But first, let me just say it's a great day. It's a great day to be out again with our youth activists and Extinction Rebellion after the youth climate strike just 10 days ago. Let's do this again. It's another day that we must talk about reality and what's happening high above us and all around us.
So a little factoid from the U.S. Energy Information Administration to get us started. Do you know that last year in the U.S. our energy consumption hit an all-time high? And that includes specifically our fossil fuel use. We surpassed the record high from 2007. We have been doing better for over a decade. That's not just backward, but a death wish reversal. As someone who's been excited about the coverage on climate and the environment, about that CNN Climate Town Hall, it's important that we know our facts and the big picture. So I wanted to clarify that we're breaking records on fossil fuel energy use in our country and absolutely going in the wrong direction.
So let's get to the heart of the cause of all the hoopla. It's our atmosphere. It's not like the out of proportion drawings from our school books. This is a thin layer of a fragile shell surrounding our planet. It's thin, like the varnish on a bowling ball. The problem is we're dumping 110 million tons of heat-trapping pollution into that thin layer, and we're doing it every single day.
Think of CO2 as the helium in balloons, something we can visualize. We're continuously releasing these balloons and they're collecting onto a ceiling. The ceiling is our atmosphere. CO2 is being released faster now than at any time in the last 66 million years. The energy trapped by man-made global warming pollution, those balloons, is equivalent to exploding 500,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs every single day. Rays reflected back away from our planet that would normally get beyond our atmosphere are being choked back and held inside by these balloons, the greenhouse gas effect.
This effect has been documented since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, but it's really catching up with us now. 18 of the 19 hottest years on record have occurred since 2001. That's basically every year of this century. The main cause of the rising temperatures we see is the burning of fossil fuels. 31% of the world population experiences potentially deadly heat of 20 or more days per year. Hundreds and sometimes thousands of people die in these instances. In 2018, while we were burning all of those fossil fuels, over 200 locations around the world set all-time heat records.
Worldwide extreme weather catastrophes have more than tripled since 1980. We're in unprecedented times with our hydrological cycle disrupted and, as another analogy, weather on steroids. This is causing not just more heat, but storms, droughts, and forest fires, which we see almost daily on the news now, of greater frequency and heightened impact. Hurricanes are getting so intense that there's consideration of adding a sixth category above the already devastating Category 5, which assures total destruction.
We know here in the Midwest that our farmland really took a hit this year from the sheer quantity of rain experienced. The toll on the industry is yet to be fully calculated. And in cities across the world, such as Ellicott City, Maryland, there are flash floods so intense that roads become rivers, with cars floating downstream. I can't imagine living through that. I don't want to live through that, and I don't want anyone else to live through that. They experienced it again 22 months later.
Climate change and ecosystem loss are contributing to the worst extinction event since the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Land-based animals and plant species are moving poleward at a rate of 15 feet per day as they seek a climate they need to survive. They don't have air conditioning, and they've been living in specific conditions for millions of years. Things are changing so quickly on the biological scale they can't adapt. Even if you don't love or appreciate the natural world, I hope you realize that we need our ecosystem in balance to have a functioning planet with natural resources.
This is a big one. Climate change is a medical emergency, according to health experts. Worldwide, air pollution kills 9 million people every year. In the US, particulate pollution, which typically goes hand in hand with greenhouse gases, is responsible for 150,000 type 2 diabetes cases. As the warmer temperatures climb our latitudes, tropical diseases are popping up in new places. Without full winters to kill off pests, life cycles such as Zika mosquitoes incubate and penetrate. U.S. tick-borne diseases more than doubled since 2004, and half the country now has Lyme-carrying ticks present. Our cropland is yielding less, and what is yielded has less nutrient value. The health effects are reverberating and more numerous than we can cover today, but you can be sure our health suffers along with the planet.
The World Bank recognizes climate change as, quote, an acute threat to global development that increases instability and contributes to poverty, fragility, and migration. But let's look at the numbers as financial industries do. In 2015, global losses from weather catastrophes totaled $103 billion for that year alone, a third of which was insured. In 2016, losses were over $170 billion, and in 2017, the costs rose dramatically to $320 billion. Some people say we can't afford to make the changes we need, but truthfully, we can't afford not to address our climate crisis.
Yeah. Finally, before we get into the good news, I must mention, as Kyra did, that climate change is an environmental justice issue. Vulnerable communities are disproportionately affected by climate change and have less ability to adapt and recover from it. I encourage you all to see the documentary Cooked: Survival by Zip Code as a primer with specific examples about how Chicago's climate justice issues manifested around the heat wave in 1995.
I hope that we've convinced you that we must change, obviously. Now we ask, can we change? The good news is we have solutions ready to scale if we mobilize and get into action. Globally, wind energy can supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times over. Every hour, the Earth gets as much energy from the sun as we need to run the entire global economy for a year. You can opt for renewable energy even if you rent right now. But if you have a roof, put solar panels up there and that's even better. Solar prices have fallen so much that prices compete with cheap fossil fuel energy. The time is now for renewable electricity.
Yes, we're going to need more innovation, but we have ready-to-scale solutions now too, beyond renewables. The book and website Drawdown describes the 100 top solutions to global warming currently available and gives details on cost, savings, path to adoption, and carbon impact. The Solutions Project has calculated the optimal renewable energy mix for every country. So we have our guides.
Cities, businesses, and academic institutions are stepping up. Even without leadership from our federal administration, we can make big changes. We have much more autonomy and control over our cities. Ultimately, we must parse things out to find ways to make a difference. When we add it all back together again, the results are big changes. A couple notable facts. Over 180 global companies have made a commitment to 100% renewable electricity. And the hashtag We Are Still In commitment counts 3,800 leaders representing 155 million people, almost half the country, and almost $9.5 trillion of GDP.
For our final point today, let's drill down on our state. In Illinois, as people have mentioned, we have the chance to build a future to 100% clean energy right now. We have the Clean Energy Jobs Act in Springfield. Let's pass that bill. It will bring jobs, security, and a just transition. We need to tell Governor Pritzker to get this done now. We don't want to wait till next year. We want it passed in veto session in 2019. Call the Take Action Hotline by the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, of which we are proud members. I have the number for you. It's all set up and convenient. Are you ready? It's 833-NOW-CJOB. You can find that on the ilcleanjobs.org website as well.
So now we ask, will we change? I hope your answer is an emphatic yes.
Will we change?
We are so glad Extinction Rebellion is out here pressing the point and working to get us woke. Let's find the pace that matches the crisis. Together we can. We only have 10 years. Let's get into action, demand Mayor Lightfoot declare a climate emergency, and Governor Pritzker pass CJA to build a clean energy future for all of Illinois. Now!